of both ICL Leadership Intensive and Leadership Maine. This is a special group, as you all know. Every day, you are improving lives, careers, organizations, businesses, and in fact, entire communities. And much of this, or a big part of it, is because you are living what you learned as participants of these programs.
What's the thing we remember the most? The high ropes course. Or unless you were in the class that caused Cheryl to ban liquor, and then you remember that. But let's pretend it's the high ropes course. What's amazing about that experience, right, is not just who's climbing, but who's on belay. And Patty Oldmixon is here for my Leadership Maine class, and I'm embarrassing her, but I will never forget, and I will never stop telling the story of how when one of our climbers came down, and she said to the belay team, "Thank you for holding me." And Patty and her teammates said, "No, thank you for trusting us enough to hold you." And that really changed my whole conception of what the climb is like and of what leadership is like. But in the long run, I was thinking, you know what? MDF is neither the climber nor the belay team. At most, maybe we're the rope. Maybe we're the carabiner. You, the alumni, are both the climbers and the belay team. And the impact of these two programs can never be more than whatever your willingness is to climb higher and to support each other even more than you ever have in changing the state for the better. What was that founding moment? Who was in the room? How did it happen? What was the inspiration? And also to share with us their hope for the future of these things that they've been emotionally invested in for 25 years. So first, Henry Bourgeois, founding executive director of Leadership Maine. And get this, CEO of MDF, think about this, CEO of MDF for 20 of its 40 years. 20 of our 40 years, this man led us. Thank you, Henry, for being here.
Thank you, Yellow. Think back, if you were around, to the early 90s. And I'll identify three or four motivations that really launched Leadership Maine. Politics were a mess in the early 90s. There was a lack of civility, a lack of trust, a lack of understanding about the economy and about how government works. It was not a very nice environment to be in if you were working with the legislature at all. And it wasn't just the legislature, it was the business community and local government. Frequently at board meetings of MDF, we bemoaned the fact that it was so hard to identify up-and-coming leaders. It created Leadership Maine. It was Dynan and New England Tel who took the lead in raising money for us, who provided the high-end, high-risk investment to make that program work. It was just a great act of courage if you've ever tried to start something like Leadership Maine in the state. Ed Dynan also corralled about 10 CEOs of large corporations who made a commitment to finance a nominee to participate in Leadership Maine for 5 years. So right away when we started the program, we had 25 people lined up, ready to participate over the entire length of the program. So corporate leadership was very important. Turning the whole idea of Leadership Maine into a program that really focused on the economy of the state.
And it seemed that if we were going to be successful, we needed a new form of leadership. The old hierarchy of command and control, telling people what to do, wasn't going to work as we went into this more complex environment. And so I started to ask around. I talked with a lot of experts. Jim Orr, who was the CEO of Unum at the time, was very supportive. We put together an advisory committee that consisted of some great people in the greater Portland area. This was Portland focused, not statewide focused at the time. So we had the president of the USM, Rich Patna, the manager of Portland, Bob Ganley at the time, Mickey Green, who was CEO of Blue Cross. I could name them all, but they were really committed, good, thoughtful people. And as a result of those discussions, we came up with the idea what we needed was a collaborative leadership model. And so the ICL was born. Collaboration isn't something of the past. If we need collaboration now, we need it more than ever. And it's not because we don't engage stakeholders. It's because our stakeholders are so divided. And if we don't know how to lead through divisiveness, we aren't going to be able to lead.
I'm primarily here to introduce these two special people. And I can do that best by talking about what makes these programs so unique, or what made them so unique for me. What I realized very quickly is I really didn't understand Maine. I didn't understand it, and I worked in the Mid-Coast area. I didn't get out much. I was working for Outward Bound at the time, which some of you, all of you know, right? I was working for Outward Bound. And Cheryl was the person who introduced me to this state. And she did it with such love and enthusiasm. You would never have known that it was her first journey with Leadership Maine. She was a consummate journey leader and stayed that way for the next 14 years. Leadership Maine is this kind of outward journey and learning about leadership from others. Laura takes us on an inward journey and really understanding who we are as leaders and how we can best bring our strengths to whatever role we're playing as leaders in our organizations. Her expertise is leadership. It's organizational development. How do we bring people together around common cause?
This much I know is true. Those who come to the ICL Leadership Intensive with commitment and intention to learn, to meet and know a mix of amazing people, to explore their own leadership vision and style, and to fully participate are those who see more clearly their own potential and their ability to trust and honor themselves and others. Those who put their hearts and souls into the work of the intensive leave the experience having been disrupted in a positive way. Having been disrupted, hopefully, even if it feels negative, it becomes a positive part of their growth. Challenged to see new, sometimes very divergent possibilities for their lives. The ICL Leadership Intensive has for 25 years been about disrupting the status quo, as Janice said. Disrupting the status quo to create new ways of strengthening communities, leaders, individuals who want more in their lives. After all, as Thule Kupferberg said, when patterns are broken, new worlds emerge.
What does Leadership Maine mean to me? It gave me the opportunity to give back, to pay it forward, and to have the time of my life meeting very special, committed people. It was transformational for all of us every year. We each defined where we wanted to make a difference in both large and small ways.
1,850 alumni between the two programs. 1,850 alumni, 25 years. That's just amazing. And we're just getting started. And one of the most important things about just getting started is to make sure we're constantly working harder than ever to reconnect you, to bring you together, to re-inspire one another, and ultimately, of course, to recommit to whatever brought you to Leadership Maine and to ICL in the first place, which is to make an outsized difference in your community, in the prosperity of the state and your fellow citizens, and the future of Maine.